spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Graves, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we are here to talk about some cool stuff.
Is it just cool stuff? It's not interesting stuff?
I think it's really interesting. For my topic, I have no idea what you're doing, so...
I'm doing Haunted Hollywood 4, so I'm pretty excited to jump back into Haunted Hollywood. Robin, what are you covering? Because I honestly have no idea.
I'm covering Bobby Mackey's.
I don't know what that is.
It's a nightclub. We'll get there.
Right on. Sounds awesome. It's like Studio 54, where it's just like cocaine and tits everywhere.
What's Studio 54?
You're young. You're very, very young. They made a movie about it with Michael Myers, and it was called 54, I'm pretty sure. So it's not just that you don't remember what Studio 54 was. You don't even remember the movie about what Studio 54 was about.
I know Austin Powers with Mike Myers.
Yeah, it's that exact same movie. It's just a different title if it's overseas. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, fun.
Oh, kind of like that Le Mans movie?
Yeah, where it's called Ford versus Ferrari or whatever over here. Yeah, same thing. Or like how over the Mississippi River, Hardee's becomes Carl's Jr. Same thing. It's
yeah, or Miracle Whip.
Is it Miracle Whip? What is Miracle Whip?
Oh, wait, not Miracle Whip. What is the Hellman's?
Hellman's is best foods on this side of the country. Yeah,
so like that kind
no
of thing?
one cares about any of this stuff, but there's a lot of stuff like that. So before we move into our topics, we're going to cover a few things. First and foremost, next episode is our 2-year anniversary. So if you want to ask us questions, we are going to read through a bunch of them on this next episode coming up next week. Anything that you want to ask us about the process we've gone through, or just like what it's like recording, or just general stuff you want to ask us, we have a lot of stuff that's been sent to us already. Whether it's Twitter or Instagram, we have some stuff get emailed to us. We have a bunch of stuff in the Discord. Go ahead and send it our way. We'd be more than happy to compile it all and get those answered. I'm pretty excited for our 2-year anniversary episode.
Cute.
Second, last week, I mentioned this on the Storytime episode as well, but we sent out a cry to our listeners to say, what is up with these trees that smell like jizz?
Oh, yeah.
And there's this been outpouring of information and support. And I think we can all say those trees are gross, and they definitely do exist. So anyone who's ever told me that I'm crazy, you're crazy. Fuck you. So, yeah, those are the two things I definitely wanted to cover. Robin, do you have any public service announcements before we go ahead and get started?
Leaves are really crispy right now.
They are very crispy, which refers to a meme that shows Two-Face that's all burnt up with both sides of his face, and he's going, crispy, which is Robin's favorite meme. She laughs every time she sees it.
I can't help it.
I guess the other PSA is, if you have a story that is paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, maybe coincidental, maybe true crime, you can send it our way, because we have these other episodes called Storytime episodes where we like to read them. We call those homegrown horrors. Robin, where can folks send us their homegrown horrors?
You folks can send them to storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to our website under the Contact Us page, fill out all that fun stuff, and it will send us an email with your story in it when you fill all that stuff out.
Indeed,
so, it doesn't pull it out of your brain. You got to actually type it in, but we'll get it.
Your fingers need to pull it out of your brain.
Yeah.
Or if you have a voice-actuated keyboard, you can try and do it that way as well.
Yeah, we've also gotten a bunch on Instagram and Facebook lately, which is cool.
Yeah, if you want to hit us up on our social medias, @ScarishPod is Twitter, @ScarishPodcast is Instagram, and Facebook.com/ScarishPodcast is Facebook. So those are all the ways that you can reach out to us, but I think it's about time to get into the regularly scheduled episode, unless I'm missing anything.
No, I think we're good.
All right, and you said you were going first, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay, well then, take it away.
All right, so this week, I am going to cover, supposedly, the quote-unquote most haunted nightclub in America. And everything claims they're the most haunted whatever. Everyone always says that.
I took the most haunted poop earlier.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like spirits came out of it.
Was it absolutely haunting?
It was like, ooh.
Oh, my God.
I was like, dang.
Was it more like kersplash?
Kersplash? No, it was like kerplunk.
Okay.
I was picturing that episode of Simpsons where there's the stonecutters. I don't know if you've ever seen that episode.
Oh, you know what's on Hulu right now? Thanksgiving Horrors or something like that from Simpsons. They made like a Treehouse of Horror, but a Thanksgiving episode.
They did a Thanksgiving episode of Horrors?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So we can watch it later.
But anyways, the Stonecutters episode, when they try to banish Homer from the Stonecutters forever, they have him like turn over his official Stonecutter underwear, and they put it into a fire. When they put it in, like, these spirits leave it like, I don't know. It's funny. Fuck you. I hate it.
Okay, cool.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so it's supposedly the most haunted nightclub in America, and it's said that the building's basement actually holds a gateway to hell itself.
Of course it does.
Of course it does, because why not, right? I know you don't really care about this, but Ghost Adventures did do an episode there.
God, I hate them.
My favorite Ghoul Boys also did an episode there.
Ghoul Boys?
Yeah, BuzzFeed Unsolved Boys.
Oh, okay.
Zach Bagans actually claimed that he was possessed
Of course.
by a demon.
Of course he was.
Yeah, I don't get it. He always gets possessed everywhere he goes. I just don't understand.
I think demons have more self-respect than to possess that douche constantly.
Oh my gosh, I don't understand. It's something where I'm going to stop watching because every single episode you claim something's in you, or you don't feel good because it's like something's attacking you.
Or you're blind, or any of the other nonsense he pulls off. Like, I'm a living human boy, and I have enough self-respect to choose exactly where I want to put myself, or if I want to put myself into other people. And I can only imagine that if I was a supernatural entity with all these powers, I would have some goddamn self-respect.
Wow.
And I wouldn't just haunt this one douche nozzle who makes money off of it.
Okay, anyway, so Bobby Mackey's Music World is like the whole title of the place, right? It's a nightclub and honky tonk. And so I had to look up what a honky tonk was.
Is it like a country music jamboree style thing?
It's according to the internet, okay? I'm not sure because I'm not a big country music person, but according to the internet, it's both a music style and a place that plays country music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like it can be a lot of things. It can be whatever it wants to be. All I know is growing up, I heard this song called Honky Tonk Badonkadonk. And
what?
Yeah, dude, that song is so ridiculous. It's so bad. Oh my God. I'll play it for you later, but
Honky Tonk Badonkadonk.
It goes like, I'm not even going to sing it because it's just, okay.
No.
Anyway, so, all right. I'm just going to take the internet's word for it. I'll believe you. That's what it is. This place is located at 44 Licking Pike, Wilder, not sure how to pronounce it exactly, Kentucky, here in the United States.
Right on.
It's owned by Bobby Mackey, go figure. And Bobby Mackey apparently is a country singer who has been in the music business for a good part of 40 years. So he's been doing it for a really, really long time. And this building, however, its history goes way further back than that. Way further back. So the site that the building is on has been the site of a number of murders, a number of suicides, and it's no wonder that this place has its share of haunts. So there's so many weird, creepy, ghost, paranormal things that happen there that there's a sign within the nightclub that states, quote, "Warning to patrons, this establishment is purported on the sign is spelt wrong, BT dubs.
That's fucking hilarious.
This establishment is purported to be haunted.
Kentucky, you get me.
Stop it. Management is not responsible and cannot be held liable for any actions of any ghosts or spirits on this premises.
Is it spelled right and you just said it wrong?
No, it's spelled right, I think.
Okay.
End quote. Not all those other words I added in there. It just ends on premises. End quote. Okay. Now, for me, if I saw a sign like that,
I think bullshit right away. I'd be like, they clearly want the attention. Ignoring
the misspellings, okay, I would kind of be reluctant to go in there because why would they put that sign there? Yes, attention grabbing, making the ghost hunters want to go, but it's just, as someone who is not too keen on getting possessed, I'd be like, I'll think twice about it, Supposedly, Bobby Mackey's started its life as a slaughterhouse in the 1850s. So it was a small meatpacking facility that serviced Northwest Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't know how close Cincinnati is.
It's pretty close.
But yeah, apparently it is.
It's on the southwestern border of Ohio. is right by Kentucky. So
Oh, cool.
I'm
All right.
pretty sure. Like my geology of the Midwest, geology? Yeah, my geography.
Geology is the study of rocks.
My geography of the Midwest isn't the best, but I'm pretty sure that Cincinnati University is really close to Louisville. That's why there's that rivalry there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want to go to Louisville one day.
It's a nice place, man. I've been there a lot, actually. My brother used to live
Is
there.
that the place that they went to for Top Chef this past season?
I don't remember where they went to for Top Chef this past season.
I know they went to the place where they make Maker's Mark or whatever, right?
That's Kentucky, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it was Louisville they went to, but I'm pretty sure they were in Kentucky.
All right, so we love Top Chef. It's just like...
Shout out to Top Chef.
Anyway.
Padma Lakshmi, what's up? Hit me up. And then probably tell me how fucking stupid I am because she's like super smart.
She's a gorgeous woman. Anyway, apparently below the building, a well was dug that was used to hold blood and, you know, the meaty waste from the animals that they were slaughtering.
That is really gross.
And I sent him a...
Meaty waste is a really gross phrase.
I didn't know how else to describe it. But I sent him a picture of one of these wells earlier tonight, and he's like, "What is this? A bunch of rocks?" And I was like, "It's a hole." And Adam's just like, it's a nice hole you got there.
Nice hole you have there, Robin.
Anyway, so it's on the banks of a river, so I'm sure that blood also flowed into the river. It must have just been gross at the time. Legend has it that after the slaughterhouse closed down in the 1890s, a satanic cult came in and practiced some of their cult activities around said well.
Cult activities like bake sales.
You like bake sales.
Duck, Duck, Goose. Red Rover, all those things that you know cults for.
Obviously, this part of the legend, it's all hearsay, and it's all alleged, but they may have not just slaughtered animals, but humans too, which is, I don't know how much of that is just storytelling, like people trying to bring in business for the club or whatnot, but that's weird. It's super creepy.
It's really weird, and it shows how morbidly fascinated so many folks are in our society when it's like, you have a club and you're like, people were murdered here to try and attract business.
As a fan of true crime, I have to say, you get me, though, you know? Like,
you just said earlier that you didn't like the sign that said that you could be possessed.
I don't want to be possessed, but true crime, hello? Like,
Ghosts/demons may be present. Also, actual human beings were actually murdered here. One of those signs is more disturbing to you than the other one.
It's morbid curiosity, okay? Anyway, so side note, there are actually 3 wells/drains that are located in the basement. So there's lots of potential portals to hell.
So are the drains supposed to be the portals to hell, or do they like...
Yeah, the drains are wells that are supposed to be the portals to hell.
Is it only one way? Why aren't more things coming through? I have a lot of questions
that's why
about
there's
this
lots
portal.
of spirits.
Okay.
Spirits and ghosty things.
Can they not get too far away from the portal? Like, what's going on? Because I've seen a lot of Supernatural.
Oh, we'll get there.
Oh, God.
Okay. So one of the more interesting happenings here at Bobby Mackey's was in 1896. So the body of a 22-year-old pregnant woman by the name of Pearl Bryan was found on February 1st, 1896. She had come into town from Greencastle, Indiana. Her boyfriend, Scott Jackson, was a student at the Ohio College of Dental Surgery. Jackson and his roommate Alonzo thought themselves medically skilled enough to perform an abortion. And so Jackson was a dentist, okay? He was a dentist. I don't know how he thought that he was a doctor of any other means other than working on people's teeth.
I mean, I'm sure he's been medically trained in some ways where he thought he was confident enough to do something like this. It's just, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that, because this is about to be a really horrific story. I can already tell.
He got her to come to Cincinnati, where he arranged the whole thing. Understandably and unfortunately, things went south, and Walling and Jackson had to figure out a way to cover up the whole thing. So their solution was they forced her to ingest 14 grams of cocaine.
Jesus Christ.
Which was found in her stomach during the autopsy, and cut off her head.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude?
Yeah, it's like, oh man, this thing that we're doing is not working, so we got to get rid of the top half. Like, I don't understand. It just, I mean, ugh.
I was preparing myself for botched abortion, and I didn't really get myself ready for decapitation murder.
So the cocaine didn't kill her, but the throat slashing definitely did.
Removal of the head, I think, was leading cause of death in this case.
They dumped her body in a field less than 3 miles from the slaughterhouse, and I guess they figured that by doing that, by getting rid of her head, no one would ever figure out who she was or who the body was or anything. And as idiots tend to do, they left stuff behind that would get them caught. And what they did was they left Pearl's shoes on her feet. So the authorities were able to track her shoes back to her through a serial number. And the serial number led them to Greencastle, Indiana, which in turn led them to find out who she was.
Right. It's like how many people could be missing from that town that fit her description,
right.
You know?
Courts offered to give them life sentences instead of execution if they gave them the location of her head. And these two douche nozzles refused, and so Walling and Jackson were hanged for their crime.
Wow.
They could have just told them where it was, but whatever. They're said to have been the last two to ever be hanged in Campbell County. So they're the last two people to ever be hanged in that area. That's
deservedly
crazy.
so.
It said that while on the gallows, Walling vowed to haunt the area forever. And
forever's a long time.
It is a long time. They never found Pearl's head. Some say Jackson used it during some sort of satanic ritual in the basement of the slaughterhouse. Legend has it that many of the police officials and attorneys that were involved in the case were victims of bad luck and tragic endings. What doesn't link up is that the crime actually took place 4 miles or so away from the slaughterhouse, and they may have walked by it on their route or whatever that night, but they never actually stopped there. I mean, they may have with the whole head thing, and who knows where the head is now, you know? But the whole story with the ghost, it really relies on the satanic aspect for the ghosts to kind of stick. So this whole thing's strictly legend, and I mean, legend has it, you know, that this happened type thing. Then came Prohibition and the mob. So the slaughterhouse was demolished, and the area was abandoned until the 1920s. And a new building, it was a roadhouse, also known as a stopping house, and these are just places that are built on main thoroughfares, so people would stop there on their way while they're driving.
Gotcha.
So this roadhouse was built in place of the old slaughterhouse and served as a casino, nightclub, speakeasy combo type thing. And it went by many names, including the Brisbane or the Bluegrass Inn, which, cute. I like those
Did you
names.
say cute?
Yeah, those are good names. And it served throughout the Prohibition, and when it ended in 1933, someone by the name of E.A. Buck Brandy, the nickname is Buck, E.A. nickname Buck Brandy, bought the building and renamed it the Primrose, which, cute name,
Primrose
again.
Everdeen.
Oh my gosh, I volunteered as tribute. Eventually...
It's the worst impression of Katniss Everdeen I've ever heard in my life.
Why don't you do this?
I volunteer as tribute. Did I nail it?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so eventually the mob, or more specifically the Cleveland Four, not to be confused with the Flower Four.
Or the Fantastic Four.
Oh shit, I didn't even think about the Fantastic Four.
How did you not think about the Fantastic
Because I was
Four?
thinking about the Flower Four.
I don't know who the fuck the Flower Four
So
are.
F4 is from Hana Yoridango, which is it was a manga, and it got turned into a whole bunch of different dramas. So Hana Yoridango is the Japanese version, but there's like Meteor over Flowers, something like that. Meteor Flowers, I don't know. There's a million different countries that have a million different versions of this same story, but they're always F4. And it's just, that's the only F4 I ever think of. I never think of Fantastic Four because that movie was so bad.
It's, you know what? It's Sony's fault for ruining Fantastic Four.
Damn it, Sony.
This is apropos of, you know, not a whole lot that's going on in the show right now, but yeah, like Sony made those shitty movies and they kept making shitty movies so they could hang on to the licenses, and Marvel was so annoyed that they wouldn't give them back the license to Fantastic Four, they stopped printing the fucking comics. They're like, no more Fantastic Four for anyone, because you guys make movies that are so shitty no one wants to buy these fucking comics, and it's a waste of our money. So they literally shut down the Fantastic Four line.
That's so sad.
Until they got it back, which they have. So now they're like,
Wow.
we'll bring it back now, you stupid assholes.
Jeez, I did not know that at all.
That ridiculous dick measuring contest that Marvel totally won. But yeah, never mind. We're super fucking nerdy on this show. It's insane.
Yeah, we can't help it. Anyway, so all right. So this Cleveland Four started getting involved in the casino. There's like rivalries going on. And when Brady stood his ground and refused to sell the Primrose, mobsters started harassing his customers outside in the parking lot. They were just ruining his business, you know what I mean? And so one day, Brady couldn't take it anymore, so he pulled a gun and wounded one of them. He wounded an Albert, nicknamed Red, Masterson. They all have such a cool names. I'm so jelly. I feel like
I'll call you Red from now on, then.
Just everyone has a cool nickname. I don't understand. Like, this guy's named Buck. There's no Buck in his name. This Albert's called Red. I don't know if he had red hair or not.
Probably Irish.
But, I mean, it's just...
his last name doesn't exactly indicate so, but I don't know.
Like, what kind of nickname would I get?
I don't know.
Anyway, so Brady drew the gun. He was arrested for having attempted to murder Masterson. That's what he got arrested for. Masterson refused to identify Brady as his attacker, but Brady was, in essence, bullied out of the casino business by 1946. So by 1946, he's like, I have to sell it. There's nothing I can do. He sells the Primrose to the Cleveland Four and retires to Florida, where he unfortunately commits suicide in 1965.
Wow, that's so sad.
Yeah, that's not the first suicide in this whole story either. It's just so much sadness around this whole thing. In the 1950s...
If it makes you feel better, my shit's going to be pretty sad, too.
Oh, jeez.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Oh, no. Okay, so in the 1950s, the place was reopened as a nightclub and renamed the Latin Quarter. And legend has it that the club's owner had a daughter named Joanna, and she was also one of the dance hall girls. She was known to wear rose perfume. She fell in love with a singer named Robert Randall, who performed there. She got pregnant, apparently, which is a theme of the place. Pregnancies, oh, Jesus Christ. She had planned to run away with Randall, but her father got wind and forbid the relationship. And supposedly, he used some criminal connections, probably mob, to have Randall killed. And upon the discovery of his death, she poisoned her father and then herself in the basement of the building. Jesus. And the basement of the building just happened to be where the dressing rooms for all the performers were.
And the portal to hell.
And the portal to hell. There is...
Do you think that was next to the dressing rooms? Like, hey, Becky, can you be really careful, okay? I know you're new and you're getting dressed and everything, but there's a hole there. You'll fall into hell if you get into it.
There is documented evidence of a woman named Joanna that had committed suicide by poisoning, but it wasn't on 44 Licking Pike. It was 44 Pike Road, which was just miles away. And it happened in 1914, which is decades before. So It's like...
dates don't exactly
Dates don't match. Addresses don't match. I mean, it's not that far away, but at the same time, it's like...
40 years away, though. It's quite a bit.
Well, time is wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Time is a flat circle.
The place was commonly referred to by locals as the Bloody Bucket due to the high amount...
the grossest fucking nickname.
Due to the high amount of violence that occurred there. Lots of businesses came in and out, and a lot of times exchanged hands for only $1.
Okay, so what you're saying is that a business would open up in this location and fail, and on occasion, when they were selling the place to the next potential business owner, they're like, just give me a fucking $1 so I can get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, so the building was eventually turned into the Hard Rock Cafe. No relation. Oh,
that's a big old bummer.
No relation to the main chain of Hard Rocks. So it was turned into the Hard Rock Cafe in 1973. It was a pretty rough place. There were a number of fatal shootings throughout the years, and in 1978, the place was forced to close by authorities because there was just too many shootings. That same year, Bobby Mackey, the same one that owns it now, purchased it, and he had intentions of turning it into a country bar as a country singer himself, and he even put aside the recording of an album to work on the place. So he bought it. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it into this sweet ass country nightclub. It's going to be great. And
or a honky tonk.
Badonkadonk.
God damn it.
Dude, it's such a bad song. Okay. So it's said that the paranormal activity had been common from day one. So as soon as they got in there, weird stuff started happening. Mackey himself claims to be a skeptic, but doesn't doubt anything that anybody else says. So his family, friends, the people that work at the nightclub, he believes everything that they say, but he just doesn't believe in that stuff himself.
It's kind of a weird discrepancy, wouldn't you say? It's like you believe the things people are saying, but you also don't. He doesn't believe them,
but he doesn't doubt them. He's not like, you're full of shit. I'm like, okay. It's like being respectful, like, okay, you've experienced that. I can accept that you experienced that, but I don't believe in that shit.
So looking at it like, yeah, I believe something happened to them, but it's not particularly up the alley that I think they're going.
Maybe. Something like that. Know. He doesn't believe in it. That's all I know.
So he doesn't believe in it?
He's a skeptic.
Okay.
They have brought in a number of different people to try and figure out what causes the activity, including priests and psychics. Unfortunately, nothing really helps with the situation. Bobby's wife, Janet, claims to have at one point been overcome by a scent of roses in the basement, as well as having been grabbed around the waist, picked up, and thrown and pushed down the stairs by a force. And she describes having seen what looked like Alonzo Walling. And the entity screamed, "Get out, get out."
It started out nice with, like, roses, being grabbed around the waist, being picked up. Like, these are things that, like, sounded romantic. And it's like, thrown downstairs, being told to fuck off. Yeah, it got really bad.
Yeah,
really
and so she refused to ever go into the club again. Janet passed away in 2011.
That's sad. Damn it, Janet.
I love you. I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Okay, so now for the really weird stuff. There used to be a caretaker that lived in the apartment above the nightclub named Carl Lawson. Supposedly, Lawson was the first employee that Bobby hired, and he was the subject of an exorcism performed in the nightclub's kitchen, apparently.
Wow.
It was performed by a Reverend Glenn Coe and witnessed by Doug Hensley. It was even recorded on videotape, apparently. So he spent a lot of time in the building, considering that's where he lived, that's where he worked. He began reporting experiencing strange things. When he first started bringing up the things he saw, people thought that he was just crazy. Eventually, he wasn't the only one to see these weird things, and Lawson claimed to have been demonically possessed. He has since died. He died on January 26, 2012, not as a direct result of the exorcism or anything. It was actually a successful exorcism, so that's good.
So he's got that going for him.
Well, no, he doesn't have anything going for him anymore.
He had that
going for him. During an interview with Doug Hensley, a man who wrote extensively about Bobby Mackey's, Lawson told him, I'd double check at the end of the night and make sure that everything was turned off. Then I'd come back down hours later and the bar lights would be on. The front doors would be unlocked when I knew that I'd locked them. The jukebox would be playing Anniversary Waltz even though I'd unplugged it and the power was off.
That's creepy.
End quote. So yeah, it's like all these weird things would keep happening. I mean, it could be chalked up to him being forgetful or what, but that's really strange, you know?
Yeah, something playing when it's unplugged is definitely really, really strange. Like, being a skeptic, if someone can produce, like, a source of electricity when an electronic device is unplugged,
is that what happens?
Terrifying.
In the Poltergeist, is that what happens? They unplug their TV and it still turns on?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I don't know. Like I haven't seen it in a while.
I don't like seeing the parts where, like, stuff is floating around in his glass of water and then he swallows it.
He's drinking tequila and that's the worm.
So gross. I can't. Ugh.
You're supposed to be the fan of tequila on this podcast.
Yeah, but I'm never going to drink one with stuff in it. Ever. Doug Hensley wrote a book titled Hell's Gate that connects the history of things that have happened in the past to hauntings of the present. At the back of the book, there are even 29 signed and sworn affidavits from club employees, patrons, police officers, etc. that swear by what they saw and experienced. Anniversary Waltz is a song from the 1930s or 40s, and supposedly isn't even supposed to be loaded onto the jukebox, but it's very popular being played there.
That's really, really creepy.
Yeah. Others swear that they've felt spirits enter their bodies while in the club. Some felt cold chills while others...
I mean, sometimes the Holy Spirit just takes you when the music has you.
Oh my God. I call it yoga.
Jesus, take the wheel.
So... Some felt cold chills, while others had completely different personalities or changes in their facial features completely. Whoa, that was way too many uses of completely. I didn't read that one. I typed it. Jesus. So there are numerous theories as to why strange things keep happening. It's thought that the well in the basement is the source of all the paranormal activity, that it's created a gateway to hell itself. There's a set of stairs near the well that's said to be the stairs that lead to nowhere. And I think that's just kind of stealing the Winchester thunder right there, like the stairs that lead to nowhere, you know?
I mean, those literally led to nowhere, though. They just lead to a ceiling, you know?
Yeah. It's also said that you can often hear phantom footsteps on those stairs. Other ghosts that are seen around are the headless apparition of a ghost dressed in turn-of-the-century clothes. Witnesses match what they've seen to photos of Pearl Bryan. Fun fact, Bobby Mackey's full name is actually Robert Randall Mackey. So it's very strange because what are the odds that his name would be the same as that singer, Robert Randall, that Joanna was in love with? So
that is odd.
So they
what
say
a coincidence.
So they say that because his name is Robert Randall, that's why her ghost kind of sticks around. Because it's like, oh, my baby, you know what I mean?
Or is it like, you son of a bitch?
Well, he wasn't the bad guy in that situation.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, so it's also said that the ghost of Buck Brady can be seen as well. There's a big mirror in the main room that seems to store lots of ghosts in it. Lots of people see ghosts when they stare into it, which mirrors freak me out in general because your brain can play tricks on you. And even when I brush my teeth, I will make an effort not to look at the mirror. I don't know if other people do that, but I definitely...
That's why when Robin gets done brushing her teeth, she always has shit all over her face.
Shut up. I do not. I look at my face when I'm done, okay? Anyway, with all the death in the building, with the shootings, murders, suicides, things like that, it's not surprising to see so many strange things that happen there. Chairs move on their own, rooms go cold, and people say they hear their names being called only to turn around and have no one there at all. And that just kind of reminds me of this 2-sentence horror story where it's like, I hear my mom calling me, and then my mom pulls me into a room down the hallway.
And says, I heard it too.
Yeah, that's so freaking creepy. Ugh! Oh man, some of those 2-sentence horror stories are so stinking good, dude.
Some of them are really, really bad.
Yeah, but that's with any story.
I guess that's true. It's nice when they're really short when they're really bad, because you're like, oh, that only wasted a couple seconds of my life.
So some of the most active spots of the nightclub include the spotlight room and the catwalk over the stage, and, of course, the basement, the old china room, and a platform near the kitchen. Apparently, some believe that spirits can't cross flowing water. So this whole thing with the flowing water is new to me. There is a river nearby, the Licking River is right there. The building's on the edge of this river. And I Googled it. I saw where it was and everything, okay? And it's thought that because of this, because the river is right there, the flowing river is right there, that the spirits are trapped in the building because they can't cross it. They say that there are about 40 different entities that are within the building. One particular one is said to be particularly dangerous to women, though Bobby never truly believed. He did write a song titled The Ballad of Joanna about the girl who committed suicide in the basement. The scent of roses is a common occurrence at the nightclub. I don't know how much of that is them just being like, hey, let's hype it up. Just spray some rose perfume all over the place.
Right, how hard would that be?
You know
They get
I mean?
one of those automatic sprayers that
at
sprays out a rose
Disneyland,
scent.
They spray bakery smells into the air and stuff like that, and different rides spray different stuff.
Right, like Soren will spray different stuff in your face.
This stuff's so good.
I will say with that river thing, like spirits not being able to cross water, I have heard that a few times.
Really?
Most notably just like nerdy stuff, like The Strain on FX when that first season came out. I was all about that show. I have not watched it since the season finale of season 1, but like they were talking about like you couldn't bring him across the river like the Vampire Lord or whatever. And the other place I've heard of it is Dungeons and fucking Dragons, because there's rules about how Vampire Lords can cross bodies of water. So
There's a movie, a Disney movie. It's on Disney+.
I like how I go to super nerdy stuff and you're like, Disney time.
There's a movie on Disney+. I think it's called My Mom's Dating a Vampire or something like that. And so the kids take his coffin and go into the lake. And he can't cross water. So they're like, he can never go to sleep because we have his coffin. I don't know. But
it's a pretty dick move. Unless you're trying to... If you're trying to troll the vampire, you've done an excellent job. But if you're trying to kill him, you've really just succeeded in pissing him off at that point.
Unfortunately, despite all the legend and lore, there hasn't been a lot of public record found that supports them. Many say that it's all just a bunch of made-up tales of murder, ghosts, and magic.
Is it all just a bunch of hocus pocus, perhaps?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that! Damn it. You're so smart.
You missed that pun.
I know. Fuck.
It's not really even a pun. You just missed the opportunity to use that phrase.
I know. Okay, so I'm annoyed that I didn't get that. Anyway, so they think it's a bunch of hocus pocus to bring more business to the nightclub, and you can still take ghost tours to the place, or not to the place, of the place. I mean, I guess they take you to the place, but you can still take ghost tours of the place, though many say that nothing ever really happens on them. From what it looks like, they do. So,
they shit everywhere.
From what it looks like, they do offer 2-hour tours, and then you can have an investigation team of up to 12 people for 5 hours. One site said it was like $600, which isn't that bad.
Yes, it is. $600
for 12 people.
That's $50 a person. I think maybe.
I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, that's not that bad. $50 a person.
$50 a person to spend hours in a shithole basement? No, I'll save my $50. Thank you.
It's not just a basement; it's the whole building.
No, not worth it. I'd rather go to the bar and just spend that $50 getting drunk.
So Bobby had plans to build a new club on a property that he purchased adjacent to the current club after viewing the tape of the Lawson exorcism. So he saw that tape. He's like, "Fuck this shit! We're tearing this building down. We're building a new one." But one day, while he was discussing the demolition of the current club, a piece of the ceiling fell down onto him, which is spooky.
Doesn't that mean that you're more inclined to get the fuck out of there at that point? Or does he feel
more
bound to it now?
No, it's more like the ghosts are saying, you better not fucking tear this shit down.
Just don't go back in there. Just have someone else tear it down. Maybe just blow it up or burn it down and then just build your new building.
It's all moot anyway because a fissure appeared out of nowhere that was 6 inches wide and 60 feet deep.
Jesus.
That ran from the club to the middle of the adjacent property. So you can't build on it.
So we have identified where the portal to hell actually is. And it's only 60 feet down.
So the new club was never built. The end.
Wow. That was a pretty abrupt ending.
Yeah. That's
really creepy that a fissure opened up, and you called it a fissure.
It's a fissure.
But a fissure opened up.
It's not called a fissure?
I've always called it a fissure. I've always heard it called a fissure, but hey, you say things differently than I do, and to each his own. What's that other word you always say that I'm always making fun of you about?
Button.
Buried.
Oh my gosh, get over it.
It's just so weird. But anyways, yeah, that was really good. I'm just I'm kind of shocked that it actually ended in a way where it's like the ground cracked open and it's like, you're not going anywhere. That is scary. So, good stuff.
Thanks. Your turn.
All right, before I get to my turn, we're going to do that spooky, super scary thing, and we're just going to pause really quickly for a couple of advertisements, or however you say
advertisements?
That word. And we're back. Thank you so much for pausing. Robin and I have been discussing how we're going to handle those mid-rolls, and I think we're going to have like a little music that plays into the commercial and then plays out of the commercial, but we'll see how that goes. I got to find music for it, basically. So, but I am going to move on to my topic, and this week I had my normal hankering to cover a cryptid, which is not the best feeling anymore, because at 103 episodes, I already covered a lot of them, so there's not a whole lot left. And the ones that are left, there's not a whole lot on them. You know what I mean? There's not like these really deep, rich histories. And I have a few I've been reading up on, but none that I thought could fill into a full episode. And then I thought, I wonder if there are any like scary Thanksgiving stories. I even brought that up to Rob. I'm like, I wonder if there's anything specific.
Haunted turkeys.
Yeah, but like haunted Thanksgiving. So I tried to Google as many key phrases as I could possibly think of, but all you really find is like, what a scary amount of food, am I right? And I was like, I hate everyone.
Those are when you're going to take those ghost poops.
And I thought about like grouping a few like short cryptid stories together to fill out a full episode. I thought that would be fun to do. And then I thought, man, like, I really haven't done a Haunted Hollywood in a while. I was afraid I was oversaturating the show with Haunted Hollywood, even though we had some really good response to it. And I looked it up, and I haven't done a Haunted Hollywood since episode 59. It's episode 103. So it's been the biggest gap that we've had since we started the show for Haunted Hollywood. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to it. And so I started going through my list of movies that I wanted to cover, and I realized that there's a lot of them, but there's also a good deal of them that have short stories, just like the cryptid thing. So I was like, how about I just go ahead and take a few of them and put them into a single Haunted Hollywood, and that is exactly what I am about to do. So, dear listeners, I present to you Haunted Hollywood IV, or 4 for those of you who speak Roman numeral.
Intravenous.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Robin and I used to work at GameStop, and we would have kids come in to buy Grand Theft Auto 4 when Grand Theft Auto 4 was the newest one.
Grand Theft Auto IV?
They used to always say Grand Theft Auto IV, and it's like, one, I'm not going to sell this to you because you're not 18, and I love watching your face when I crush your hopes and dreams. But 2, you called it Grand Theft Auto IV. Like, get the fuck out of my store. It's just the most frustrating thing. So Haunted Hollywood 4, here we come. I love Haunted Hollywood episodes. They combine my 2 favorite things, movies
and ghosts.
I put and death, but you were pretty close.
Oh.
So in previous Haunted Hollywoods, we've covered movies where bizarre, tragic, and unfortunate events happen to the cast and crew, or even at screenings or in the aftermath of the movie, but I always let you folks know to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. That said, the movie I'm going to start with actually has a reason for its curse, which I was just flabbergasted the more I read about this. So, have you ever, prior to me mentioning this to you before the show, and I think enough time has gone by, and we're tired enough, heard of this movie? It's called The Conqueror.
No.
Never heard of it. Okay, so I hadn't either. And for those of you who are like, it sounds interesting, what is it? Well, according to IMDb, it's a film that was made in 1956, and it was directed by a guy named Dick Powell. But one of the big connections this movie has to history is one of its producers, who put quite a bit of money into this movie, was a guy named Howard Hughes. Like that Howard Hughes. The one that
Who's Howard Hughes?
You don't know who Howard Hughes is? Have you ever seen The Aviator?
No.
You've never seen The Aviator with
I know Leonardo DiCaprio's in it.
It's about the guy who was like obsessed with making the Spruce Goose, like the biggest plane.
Is that the movie that has all the flight attendants dancing around him with all the cash?
Nope, that's Catch Me If You Can.
Oh.
God, I hate you so much. Howard Hughes was an eccentric billionaire who had all these different things. He was an aviator, and he was also connected to Hollywood in a bunch of different ways. He's tied to Orson Welles, too, I believe. I don't know. I have to go through and like check that whole history. I know I've talked about it a couple times before. But Howard Hughes was an investor, a producer in this movie. And like the marketing material all stated Howard Hughes presents somewhere on it for The Conqueror. And the summary of this movie is as follows, again, according to IMDb. Mongol chief Temujin battles against Tartar armies, and I kept reading Tartar as Tartar, like, this is really weird.
I'd like to dip my fish sticks in that sauce.
And for the love of Tartar princess Bortai, there's your sauce to dip in.
Oh my god.
Temujin becomes the emperor Genghis Khan. So it's an origin story about Genghis Khan. So I'm sure after that description, you have a solid picture of this main character. And the poster of the movie boasts the following caption: I am Temujin, barbarian. I fight, I love, I conquer like a barbarian.
Shut
I'm just like,
up.
Wow, they really thought this movie was going to do well. So naturally, if you're casting a movie that's about Genghis Khan, and these are like your descriptors,
you're going to want some Asians.
You're going to want an actor that would just bring gravitas and just looks like Genghis Khan. So, of course, 1956, they cast John Wayne. No bullshit. Yes, that John Wayne. They cast John Wayne as Genghis Khan. Not surprising that when the movie finally does release, it did not do well. It is regarded by some, depending on what list you read, as one of the worst movies ever made. Its Rotten Tomatoes score is a solid 10%.
Oh, man.
Pretty sure there's like 1,500 reviews on it, too. So, is that its curse, just being a terrible movie? Well, not exactly. There's some actual curse stuff going on with this as well. Aside from John Wayne, there was a supporting actor in the movie named Pedro Armendariz, I think I'm saying the last name right, I'm going to say Pedro from now on, who played a character named Jamunga. And in 1960, so after this movie came out, Pedro was diagnosed with kidney cancer, which is very sad. Hashtag fuck cancer. And the director, Dick Powell, he actually passed away on January 2nd, 1963, and his cause of death was also cancer. Pedro, in 1963, would find out a few months after the director's death that his kidney cancer had developed to the point where it was terminal, and he took his own life in June of 1963 because of this.
Well, this is a big, cheery topic.
Yeah, the film's female lead was a lady named Susan Hayward. She was very beautiful. She was also super white. Probably had no business playing a character in this movie, but hey, it's 1956, and they whitewashed literally everything. She had a co-star named Agnes Moorehead, another beautiful young woman for the film. And what did they have in common, aside from the movie? Well, it's actually something they have in common with John Wayne. The three of them died of cancer in the 70s.
Shut up.
Yeah. So you're probably starting to figure out what this curse is a little bit, but to be fair, John Wayne attributed his cancer to his smoking habit, which was apparently a 6-pack a day habit.
When do you have time to breathe regular air?
You don't. I put side note, holy shit, in all caps.
Okay, 6
that
packs.
Is like
how much is
haunting.
in a pack?
I don't know. Like 30 cigarettes?
No, that's too many.
You're too many. All right, I'm going to keep going.
I think there's got to be like 20 a pack, okay? 20 a pack. 6
Times
packs.
6.
That's
120 cigarettes a day.
120 cigarettes a day. How many hours in a day? 24.
Wow. Are we really doing this weird math right now?
You gotta smoke so many. It's like you never stop smoking.
Yeah. You're literally smoking through all your waking moments. So, was this all a coincidence? Well, absolutely not, because I'm nowhere near done. So, John Wayne and Susan Hayward had family and friends visit them during the filming of the movie. Two folks in particular that visited John Wayne were Michael and Patrick Wayne, John Wayne's first and second sons. So his kids were coming to see him probably more often than anyone else, and Michael later on in life would develop skin cancer, while Patrick would go on to have a tumor develop in his breast that needed to be removed.
And that's rare as shit.
Hayward's son, Tim, would also come to visit her on the set regularly, and he wound up with a tumor that needed to be removed from his mouth. Overall, there were 220 people that were cast and crew that worked on the Conqueror. 91 of them went on to develop some form of cancer.
Oh my gosh.
91. That is almost half. It is baffling until they did some research. 46 of the 91 folks who got cancer, literally half, would die from that cancer. So, seems bizarre, right? Well, they filmed the movie in a few locations, one of which was St. George, Utah, which is around 140 miles downwind of the Nevada National Security Site. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's where they tested atomic fucking bombs. Above ground, not below ground. In addition to that, in the year of 1953 alone, when production was going on, they tested 11 separate nuclear weapons above ground, which was 140 miles upwind of where they were filming this movie. And if you're thinking, well, 220 people is a large amount of people, some of them were bound to get cancer, the expected amount for that group of people at that time would be around 30 cases. So this is over triple of that. And the death total itself is 50% higher than the expected amount of cancer cases in that sample group of people, because they've done studies on this shit because it's so well known. When this began to come to light in the late 50s, early 60s, mid 60s, I should say, Howard Hughes felt so guilty over this, he purchased every copy of the film in existence. It cost him $12 million to buy all of it. The movie itself, the movie's budget was $6 million. So he spent double what it cost to make the whole fucking movie to buy every copy of it, and he kept it out of circulation until 1979.
Oh my god!
When it was purchased from his estate and then redistributed. So that curse had a cause. Shitty decision making to film close to nuclear fallout radiation, and that is something apparently Howard Hughes knew about and still chose to film there. And I guess when they did reshoots in Hollywood, after they had finished filming, they're like, oh, we got to change some stuff up or whatever.
Yeah.
They imported fucking dirt from St. George to make the sets look more realistic. So they brought like this dirt that has nuclear fucking fallout in it with them. And the U.S. government, when they filmed this, basically told everyone like, you're all good. You're far enough away. Everyone should be safe. And there's just so many cases related to this where it's like they weren't safe, they were way too fucking close. So the Conqueror's curse was that people were so close to nuclear fallout radiation that they literally all started to get cancer and half of them died from it.
That's insane, dude.
It is bizarre, and I never heard of it because I've never heard of this shitty movie that was bound to be horrible anyways, regardless of whether or not something horrible like this happened. So that's one movie down. We have 2 more to go, so let's move into super fun happy time now and talk about a pretty famous movie, more recently known as The Crow. And obviously I'm kidding about super fun happy time. Don't know if you know this, almost that entire movie was filmed at night. That's how much they wanted that film to be dark. Almost the whole friggin' movie was filmed at night, so there was no natural light that would interrupt the mood that needed to be set.
I like the Crow movies.
Is
that weird?
Yeah, I won't say weird.
mean,
it's just kind of dumb. The first one is good. It's probably the best of all of them. I don't remember anything about the other ones except that I saw them and that I did not like them.
Back in the day when we just pirated everything, we didn't have Netflix, you know? Like, I watched one Crow movie and I had to watch them all. So I freaking pirated all of them.
You probably should admit this out loud. Something that goes over the airwaves.
It's okay. The hard drive has been destroyed.
Okay, good.
So
the evidence
good.
is gone forever.
It's gone forever.
So it's funny that you say that because I'm going to talk about evidence here in a little bit. So I think the most famous part of this particular movie, Curse, is very, very well known. Brandon Lee is the lead actor in this movie.
No.
He is Bruce Lee's son. I will cover Bruce Lee at some point because there's a whole thing about Bruce Lee and his death and how mysterious it was. Bruce Lee was accidentally shot and killed. That's how Bruce Lee died. Brandon Lee was playing the titular character of the Crow, and in a scene with fellow actor Michael Mackey, I think I'm saying his name correctly, Brandon Lee was supposed to be shot. And this is how it was supposed to go. I've never heard a really extensive breakdown of which scene it was in particular and what was supposed to happen. So, a scene was requiring a gun to be loaded, cocked, and then pointed at the camera. This is what they were filming, and because of the close range of the shot, the dummy cartridge that was loaded had a real brass cap to it, because they wanted it to look like it was a bullet.
Oh my god.
So they put it in the gun, they filmed this like super fun close-up or whatever, and when they did that, they cut, and there was no powder in the bullet, nothing like that, so there was no risk of a gunshot accidentally occurring. So after they cut, the props master, which is important to note, because films have prop masters who are in charge of the props, and arms masters who are in charge of anything that could discharge or is an actual fucking weapon. But the props master was the guy who took the gun, he dry fired it, and then he cocked it and got the thing out. But when he dry fired it, it knocked that brass cap into the barrel. So that's what was in the barrel. And after the cut, the props master loaded it with blanks. And to have blanks be loud, they have 2 to 3 times the amount of gunpowder in them that a regular bullet would have. So the next scene, Brandon Lee enters the room. It's the scene where like his like Earth avatar, before he becomes the Crow, walks in on his girlfriend being assaulted, and he gets shot, right? So the scene starts, Lee enters the set, he's carrying a bag of groceries, and there's a blood pack in the bag of groceries so that when he gets shot, it'll pop and there'll be blood everywhere. And the script called for someone else to shoot him, but the director decided to change it and said Michael Massey would be the one that would take the shot. And he would be the one that would shoot at Brandon Lee when he walked through the door. As soon as they said action and Brandon Lee walked through the door, Michael Massey took the gun, shot at Brandon Lee, the blood pack went off, and the bullet that was stuck in the barrel was blasted at Lee through the bag he was carrying, and it went into his chest, and it hit his heart. So they tried everything they could to save his life,
I'm sure
including
it tore that shit up.
Massive amounts of blood transfusions, but within hours, Brandon Lee had died. So it was just like in the blink of an eye, this bizarre, terrible, horrible accident took the life of Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, in just one of the most bizarrely ironic and
because
horribly tragic ways to die when your dad had died in such a similar way. And here's one of the most messed up parts that I never knew about before I did this research. So keep in mind, we're only on the first part of this curse. There had to be an investigation into Brandon Lee's death, you know? If that happens on set, someone calls an ambulance, you know?
Yeah.
And if you report, like, someone's been shot, you know, and they have to do all this work, and that person winds up dying, the police are going to have to do an investigation. So do you know what was used as evidence in that investigation? The footage of Brandon Lee being shot to death. That is 100% true. The footage existed. It was developed. It was used in the investigation. One of the stipulations of the trial, after everything was settled and they realized, like,
you can't use it in the movie.
It was an accident. No one meant to do this. No one's at fault. Like, it was a horrible, tragic accident. You can tell by everyone's reactions that it had to have been. One of the stipulations was that the footage had to be destroyed when that was over. When the investigation was over, the footage was destroyed. Michael Massey, the actor that was wielding the prop gun, was sincerely fucked up after this.
Oh, yeah.
He took a full year off after this. He didn't do any filming just so he could get his mind right. I'm pretty sure he checked himself into mental health clinics because of it. He literally went from shooting a scene in a movie that was supposed to be this really high-level flick that might help his career take off to having killed someone just that fast. Not knowing what you were doing, all of a sudden someone died because of an action that you took, regardless of whether or not you knew if it was going to happen.
That's crazy.
When production was done, he took that time off, but in his own words, quote, "I don't think that's something you're ever going to get over." And one of the saddest things about that whole scene is that it wasn't even supposed to be him that shot the gun, you know? And I'm sure that haunted him till that day.
Yeah.
And the prop master, his mistake probably haunted him, and the director who told him, no, you shoot it, that probably haunted him too. So, this isn't all that happened. When production of the movie began, because this happened right near the end of production, but when production of the movie began, some creepy stuff happened that people started to feel were bad omens. And they started to think, like, this isn't going to end well. And a member of the crew was in what is known as a cherry picker. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like one of those platform things that you can drive around, and then when you park it, it can raise up higher and higher so you can, like, make adjustments and stuff like that. He had parked it, he was doing some work, and what he had parked his cherry picker on, that was raised. That surface wound up getting raised because of some other construction happening simultaneously. When that was raised, he was pushed into an electric pole and he was electrocuted. This is like the third day of production on this film. He survived. He was like 26. They said that he did survive. At the time, his wife was pregnant. But unfortunately, all of his organs were burned because of how severe the electrocution was. He had a very painful and very long road to recovery. And that's how the filming started. He wasn't the only one that was electrocuted during this.
What?
A bunch of the buildings in this movie were made of metal for the aesthetic. Because the aesthetic is like slick, dark, dirty, ugly, stupid.
It's in warehouses and shit.
Yeah, and it's like... So one of these crew members was doing work on one of these stupid metal buildings, just a random spot of it, and he's using some tool that's also metal. And while this is happening, the set gets shifted, and the set itself, this giant metal building that they've constructed, touches, guess what? A fucking exposed power line. And I don't know if you know anything about metal, but it's a pretty good conductor of electricity. My question is, why were there so many power lines on this set? So, of course, the electricity runs through the metal, and it hits him, and he has burns all over his body from how severely he was electrocuted as well.
But he survived.
He also survives. Prior to Lee's being shot, a stuntman was on top of one of these rooftops because so much of this movie takes place on top of a roof. I remember
he's a crow.
I remember like a 20-minute fight scene on the roof where I'm like, I wish someone would just die. But he was on top of one of these rooftops, and it collapsed. He was severely injured when he fell through. He broke many bones, including almost every single rib, and he was hospitalized for quite some time. On top of all of this that happened during this movie, the set was also hit by a hurricane during production. I tried to nail down which one it was because all these articles are like, it was hit by a hurricane. I'm like, which hurricane? If you don't say the hurricane's name, you're probably making shit up. And I looked, and no article would verify which hurricane this was. It was... It filmed in North Carolina.
Did you Google it?
In 1993. There was only one hurricane to hit North Carolina in 1993. Hurricane Emily. So that solves the mystery of what hurricane it could have been. Shout out to anyone named Emily who listens to the show. You were a hurricane in 1993. So did you say you rocked them like a hurricane?
Yeah.
Wow. Side note, when reading the massive amounts of information there is on this film, I found this little tidbit that blew my mind, and I didn't realize when I put this in my script how much this would come into play later in my script. But, quote, according to Empire magazine, cocaine abuse was rampant on set, with cameramen shooting while high, crew going into the toilets to snort between shots, and people cutting around. One crew member recalls hearing the sound of a sneeze on the set one day, and an annoyed Brandon Lee quipped, "Someone just lost $50.
Wow.
Because that's how much coke they were doing when they were filming this movie. I think the funniest part about this is Brandon Lee was the one who was annoyed because he probably had his dad's discipline, fingers crossed. I'd like to think well of him.
Yeah.
And it might just be because he's passed away, but I can't imagine Bruce Lee doing cocaine, you know? Like,
yeah.
I just can't imagine his son doing it either. But anyways, that's a little side note about the filming of The Crow. Something I really like to look at when it comes to movies, regardless of whether or not they're cursed, is who was set to play the famous roles instead of who got the part. Like, originally, this movie was actually going to be a musical. It's 100% true.
Way.
That's what the studio wanted to make it. And the lead part was set to be played by, no bullshit, Michael Jackson.
That's insane.
Michael Jackson was the original Crow, according to the studio, before they started doing casting. It was going to be a musical. The director got involved. The writer got involved. They're like, we can make it something more like what we know it as. And then things started to change. The writer for the movie had a specific actor he wanted for the part of the Crow. Johnny Depp.
What?
He wanted Johnny Depp to be the Crow. And it's weird to think those things because had either of those people been cast instead,
it'd be so different.
They'd probably also have died during production of the movie.
Well, I mean, with
maybe
Michael
maybe
Jackson,
not Michael Jackson, but
but
Johnny Depp definitely would have been dead.
Yeah.
So, because they were going to do that full thing, and they wanted Johnny Depp. They got Brandon Lee instead. They actually didn't want Brandon Lee until they met him, and they saw how passionate he was about the project. Then they're like, this is our dude. And they were so about it. I read some other stuff, too. It's not related to the curse, but, like, they kept doing the makeup, and Brandon Lee's like, this doesn't match the aesthetic. Like, this is too clean. So, he told the people that were doing the makeup, like, you can stop. Like, stop doing my makeup.
He just did it himself?
He went home and did it himself, and then slept. And then he came in to shoot every day with his makeup on, so it had, like, the weathered look to it.
Yeah.
And that's why it looks the way it does in the movie.
Wow.
And they're like, that's exactly what we wanted. Like, that's the look we were going for. And that's why the director and the writer liked him so much. So, cool Hollywood facts no one cares about. So, one other thing I really like to do is research movies that didn't get made. It's something that absolutely fascinates me. Or movies that are like trying to get made but never seem to get pushed through. And I'm sure we've all heard of some of these. Like, I've been reading about movies like the live-action Akira and all the people that have been cast to play, is it Canada? I forget the name of the main character. I know there's Tetsuo in Canada. I don't remember who is who. But they've been trying to cast this and get into production for like 20 years. It always shuts down.
There's no way you can cast those characters. They're just...
I mean, I'm pretty sure Joseph Gordon-Levitt was attached to it at some point. Like the Uncharted movie, that's supposed to have been made since the first Uncharted game came out. Nathan Fillion was the model for the character. It was supposed to eventually be, what's-his-face? Marky Mark. I forget what his name is. Mark Wahlberg was supposed to be... whatever the guy's name is in Uncharted.
Nathan Drake.
Now it's supposed to be moving forward with Tom Holland, which I'm all about Tom Holland.
I could totally get it.
But he's so young. I don't know how it's going to work.
I feel like in Uncharted, he's got to be, what, 40?
He's older. Yeah, he's definitely mid-20s at the youngest.
He's too young. Tom Holland's
he's
too
baby-faced.
young.
I have more here, so let's not get too tied up.
Oh, God, okay.
Cowboy Bebop was supposed to get a movie for 20 years. Now they're actually filming it,
I'm so
making it into a
excited
TV
about
series.
that one.
John Cho, is that his name? I know Cho's his last name, but he just suffered a horrific fucking accident, and production's going to be delayed for 11 months on it.
Yep.
He basically broke his back. It's horrible. Remember that movie Hancock with Will Smith?
Yeah.
That movie was in production hell for over a decade. That script existed in 1996, and they kept trying to get it made, and it never went through until finally in 2007, 2008, Peter Berg, which is the guy who directed it, and Will Smith became attached to it, and it actually wound up doing really well, which doesn't usually happen with movies that are like cursed that can't get made. So why do I bring this up? Well, sometimes movies like what I'm describing just don't get made. And there's one that didn't get made called Atuk. A-T-U-K. However you want to say that. Atuk is an Inuit word for grandfather. That's what that word means. Might be Atuk. I don't know. It's actually based on a book called The Incomparable Atuk. And that was written in 1963. That's how long this source material has been around. And the premise is that an Inuit travels to a big city. In the book, it's supposed to be Toronto. And the film adaptation, it's supposed to be New York. And the juxtaposition of, like, the fish out of water, and, like, the whole, trope that you've seen a million times with someone going somewhere they're not used to.
Splash?
Sure, like Splash, which is funny because I have an actor that's going to come up who was in Splash.
Is it Tom Hanks?
No. But I'll keep going. So that's what this movie was supposed to be. They first tried to get this movie off the ground in 1982. The script had been written. They were trying to get people attached to it. But the first time it was actually going to move forward in 1982, there was a very famous actor who was attached to play the main character. And they were very interested. They really thought this movie was going to do well. The name of that actor was one John Belushi. So Joliet Jake Blues himself. Do you know what else happened in 1982? Joliet Jake Blues, that's his name. Joliet Jake, his last name is Blues, from the Blues Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Movie she's never seen that'll be on Scene Missing once we finally get it up and running. Anyways, do you know what else happened in 1982 and the year this movie was supposed to be done?
I wasn't even alive yet.
Neither was I. March 5th, 1982, John Belushi was found dead in his hotel room. Yep. Overdose.
What?
Heroin and cocaine. He was only 33 years old.
Oh my god, baby!
Yeah, he was younger when he died than I am right now at this moment. And it was tragic. He was so well loved, and so many things he did meant so much to so many people, and he inspired so many young comedians, and that's going to come back around here in a little bit. Production was halted, and it stayed halted for years before the movie would get picked back up again. And the next attempt was February of 1988. They actually got production off the ground this time. They started filming, and 8 days later, the film would shut down temporarily, which turned into permanently. The lead this time was a comedian named Sam Kinison. He was actually the reason it got shut down. When he signed on, his agent told him he would have complete creative control. His agent was lying through his teeth.
Wow.
He tried to start rewriting the script on the set. He was told he wasn't allowed to. That basically was just this headbutting that led to a stalemate where Kinison said he wasn't going to film anything. Arbitrators got involved, and he said, if I film something, I'll tank this fucking movie. I will torpedo this movie. It'll do terrible unless you do it my way. So it was basically this pissing match where it never wound up moving forward. And it stayed in production hell. They tried to replace him with another lead, but no one would get involved because production had already started. And it was basically like it was doomed. So it stayed in production hell right up until April 10th of 1992. Sam Kinison died on April 10th, 1992.
Oh my god.
His cause of death was a car accident, and it was so very different from John Belushi because Sam Kinison was 100% sober, no drugs in his system, and if you've ever seen his act, his comedy stand-up, he's very loud and he screams a lot, you'd not think that that was the case. He was 100% clean. The 17-year-old who crossed into his lane was drunk, struck him head-on. He actually died in his car before the paramedics were able to arrive.
Wow.
He was 38 when he died. His wife was in the passenger seat. She only suffered a concussion.
Oh my goodness.
The kid that hit him also survived. He was given, for taking the life of someone else while being drunk, 1 year probation,
What?
300 hours of community service, and
For killing someone.
and they suspended his driver's license for 2 years. I originally had something written out, and I was like, I won't say that out loud, but I was like, that's all a human being's life is fucking worth. Are you kidding me? But yeah, I was like, that's kind of sad. But then I thought about the fact that it's like, he was a 17-year-old kid. Like, what's his life worth? He made like the biggest mistake he'll ever make in his life. So I can't imagine having to make that decision. But that's what happened to Sam Kinison, who was the second person attached to be the lead in this movie. And you're probably starting to get an idea.
Is there another one?
Of the curse at this point. There's much more. So when it came out of production hell, who's going to get cast as the next lead? And I'll give you a hint. I'm going to name some movies, and we'll see if you can name the leading actor in these movies.
Okay.
And so these are movies that I know him from. I don't know if they're the same movies you're going to know him from, but there's The Great Outdoors, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Spaceballs, and Uncle Buck. Most of our listeners who are over 30 know exactly who I'm talking about right now.
The guy who plays like Chewie in the Spaceballs.
Yep, that's him. And I put yes, movie fans. The next person who would be cast as the lead was Mr. John Candy. And production never got started this time because on March 4th, 1994, which was only 1 day off the mark from John Belushi's death anniversary, because he died on March 5th,
oh my gosh,
1982. John Candy suffered a heart attack and died in Mexico.
What the French
He was
toast?
43 years old when he died.
Oh my, do you notice the lead actors are getting older too? It was like 32, 38.
It cycles back
40.
down.
It does. Oh, no.
Sad thing about John Candy, aside from how much of my childhood was made so much more awesome by his sheer existence, was that he knew his family had a history of heart disease. He had relatives that had died relatively young because of heart attacks. He had actually given up smoking and was trying to lose weight to avoid exactly what wound up happening. So he had a friend named Michael O'Donoghue. He was friends with John Candy for a while, and he actually read the script with him and was planning on starring in the movie as well as a co-star. Michael O'Donoghue, some of you might not know about Michael O'Donoghue. He was the first head writer of Saturday Night Live. And most of these guys came from Saturday Night Live, and that's why they kind of all follow like the same path, because it was a way for comedians to, like, you know, not just jumpstart their career, but like be launched into superstardom.
Yeah.
So Michael O'Donoghue was going to be in this movie as well with him. He also read the script. Later in 1994, he died of a cerebral hemorrhage.
Jeebus. So
they would try and get the movie made yet again, one more time, despite all the tragedy that's attached to it, this time in the 1997 to 1998 time frame. The lead actor this time was very similar to the lead actor the first time they tried to do it, because John Belushi was pretty huge. Everyone knew who he was. And in 1997 to 1998, one of the, if not the biggest comedy star on the planet at the time, was cast in the lead role.
Robin
for
Williams?
This. No, Robin Williams didn't die from this. It's crazy how often when this movie is about to get made, this is the fourth time it's about to get made in like 20 years, they're able to pull these huge names. Like, some people really must have thought this movie was going to be a hit. They must have really thought that, because we're going to play the guessing game of who got cast in the lead role for this one. The movies are Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, and Beverly Hills Ninja. That is right. Chris Farley was set to star in the lead role in Atuk. And you can just say Chris Farley was in Saturday Night Live, and it does not do it justice. What's up?
I mean, these guys are bigger guys. All these actors are bigger men. I mean, isn't it like health issues?
But only one of them died from a heart attack. The other one died from cocaine and heroin overdose. The other one died in a car accident that was terribly tragic, and one of them died from a heart attack.
But Chris Farley
We're going to get to it.
Okay.
So I was saying, though, Chris Farley in Saturday Night Live, like, you say that and you're like, oh yeah, like he was in Saturday Night Live, whatever. But he was literally in some of the greatest skits in the history of Saturday Night Live. Like, the dude was just a fucking comedy genius. Like, there's no doubt about it. Anyone who's never seen Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live, you've missed such an important part of Saturday Night Live history. Like, Black Sheep is a movie that you can remember him from, and it's 2 hours long, and it's funny. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Saturday Night Live, you had maybe 60 to 90 to 120 seconds to make people laugh, sometimes longer, and there's skits like the Chippendales skit where he has the dance-off with Patrick Swayze, or Matt Foley, the motivational speaker that they still make t-shirts out of to this day, or the Chris Farley show where he interviewed some of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood in the funniest ways possible, or Gap Girl when it's him and Adam Sandler and David Spade being girls gossiping in the mall, and he's so hysterical in all these things that it's so hard for people to not break character and laugh, because he's overwhelmingly hilarious. It's like he has this presence where you just see him and you want to laugh, like not at him but because of him, in this wonderful way. And I love Chris Farley, I sincerely do, and he was probably one of the funniest human beings I've ever seen in literally any form of media in my entire life. And his best friends were David Spade and Adam Sandler. Like, those are his closest friends in the world. His hero, the person he looked up to the most in the world, was a guy named John Belushi.
Wow.
Who was cast in this role, who died at 33, who died of a drug overdose. And on December 18th, 1997, Chris Farley was found dead in his apartment in Chicago. He was found by his brother, John, which is super sad. He died of an overdose of cocaine and morphine. So it's called a speedball, apparently. He was 33, the same age as John Belushi.
Why do these people do so many drugs?
I think it's important to note that just because people are celebrities or they're famous or they're comedians and they're hilarious, it doesn't mean they're not people, you know? I think people get so obsessed with, like, worshiping celebrities or reading shit in tabloids, and it's just like, it's another way that they're entertained by this human being. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one thing to watch a movie of someone and be like, that character was hilarious, that actor's great, but when you see stuff about someone's actual life, and you're like, oh, it's just entertaining. Like, he's someone who entertains me, therefore anything they're going through is also entertainment. Like, people knew he had a drug problem. He was actually managed by the same people that managed Belushi, and they sent him to rehab a bunch. And like Adam Sandler's done interviews where he talks about like they used to tell him like, dude, you have to slow down. Like you don't want to end up like Belushi. And he'd be like, yes, I do. Like that's my fucking hero. But like he didn't really grasp, and so many people tried to let him know like you're overdoing it, man. Like straight up, you're going to die. And he does. He dies tragically. I was driving to Chicago, and we were like just on the south side of Chicago. We were going to the Sears Tower. I was with my parents and my brother, and I remember it came over the radio, and I was like, so sad. As a kid, I was 12. And I was just like, God, like, he has been in so much stuff I've seen growing up, and he's so funny, and just that realization of like, I'll never see him in anything new again was so sad. I had no idea this movie existed. You know, I didn't know that Atuk was a thing that all these people had been attached to that had passed away. It's obviously
cursed.
So this is one of the curses that I went through. I was like, I don't know if this is curse or coincidence, but this is definitely breaking my heart to continue. And I gotta say, we're not done. So we're going to keep going. So,
Mylanta.
As a side note, during Adam Sandler's most recent time hosting SNL this past year, he sang a song that was a tribute to Chris Farley. And it's really nice. You can go ahead and get it on YouTube if you want to watch it. And I read that every time he tried to rehearse the song...
Oh, did he cry?
He couldn't make it through. And they didn't know if they were going to be able to actually record it. And, like, the cast and the crew, like, couldn't even watch him do it. Or they're having trouble getting through it because it was so emotional. That said, when it came time to do it for the show, he absolutely fucking crushed it. So if you haven't seen the song and you're a fan of either Adam Sandler or Chris Farley, go watch it on YouTube because it's just this amazing tribute. And you're like... Damn, dude, like, he crushed it. And it's 2019. Like, he passed away over 20 years ago. He passed away 22 years ago. And people still, like, love and adore Chris Farley. So, like, that's a pretty big impact for someone who only lived to be 33. Like, I'm 34, and I'm fairly certain the dogs, my mom, and you would miss me. You know, but, like, for the world to miss someone 22 years after they're gone...
Are you tearing up?
No, I'm just, like, being real about this. Like, I think it's amazing. And it's sad. Like, it's super sad when someone passes away like that. But again, we're not done. We have one more. So the previous iteration had another actor read the script with his friend in hopes of starring in it, like being a co-star. That was Michael O'Donoghue. That was going to co-star in it with John Candy. In this case, someone else also read the script with Chris Farley, and that was a man named Phil Hartman. Now, I know you don't really know Phil Hartman because we've talked about Phil Hartman before.
I was about to say, who's Phil Hartman?
And for any of you who don't know who Phil Hartman is, your life is that much less bright for not knowing who Phil Hartman is because he is amazing. He was in a TV show called News Radio. If you've never seen it, it's fantastic. He's in movies like Sergeant Bilko and Small Soldiers and House Guest and Coneheads. And he has so many amazing characters on The Simpsons alone, like not even getting into his SNL skits. He's the voice of Lionel Hutz, the lawyer, Troy McClure, the movie actor. He did the voice of Bill Clinton. He was also Bill Clinton when he was on SNL, and he would guest spot to be Bill Clinton because he's so funny. He was Lyle Lanley, the guy that sold the monorail to Springfield. He was Fat Tony. He was also like 13 other characters that just aren't as well known, and that's just The Simpsons. So he was going to be in this movie as well with Chris Farley. And I did him last because chronologically he is last. And May 27th, 1998, I remember this one very well as well. Phil Hartman and his wife, Bryn, had an argument that night.
Oh, no.
The cause of this was that his wife was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And she had recently relapsed and struck their daughter while under the influence. And Hartman told his wife if she started using again, or ever touch their kids again, he would leave and take the kids with him. That was it. It was the ultimatum, like, you can pick. He went to bed after that and let her think about it. At 3 a.m. that night, Bryn walked into their bedroom drunk and coked up, and she pulled out a .38, and she shot Phil Hartman 3 times, once in the chest, once in the throat, and once in between the eyes.
Wow.
And he died.
She's a messed up person.
What's really sad is she was supposed to be a really good person with a really terrible addiction. Like, she had an anger problem.
But why would you shoot your husband?
I mean, it's just like, it's tragic. She then drove to a friend's house. It was a guy named Ron Douglas. She told him
quote unquote friend?
She told him that she, let me just get through it, and then you can make your judgments.
Okay.
She told him that she had killed her husband, and he didn't believe it, so they got into his car. They drove back to the house. They got there around 6 a.m., he went inside and he found Phil Hartman's body. So he left the bedroom, he picked up the phone, and he called the police. And around that time, he realized that Bryn was no longer there. She locked herself in the bedroom with Phil's body and then proceeded to take her own life with the same gun she had murdered her husband with.
Oh my gosh.
So they had 2 kids. Their kids were raised by Bryn's sister, Catherine. So I don't know. You can speculate on who this guy was. But that's what happened to Phil Hartman, who, again, comedy legend, amazing person. Side note, like, I remember seeing something where Adam Sandler came back to host SNL, and he talked about how hard of a year it had been, because he had lost Farley and Hartman, and Phil Hartman was older than they were, and he was kind of like a mentor and a friend to them. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Funny People. It's with Adam Sandler and Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and Jason Schwartzman and Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah.
It's a very long movie. It's not the best movie. I actually really like it, even though it does have flaws. And there's a part in it where, you know, Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill, they're all young, and they're all young comedians trying to take off. And Adam Sandler basically plays a different version of Adam Sandler, you know?
Okay.
Super successful comedian turned movie star, except someone who's, like, super lonely that has no one.
Yeah.
And so he kind of takes Seth Rogen under his wing. He gets invited to Thanksgiving, ironically, and he goes, and there's this huge fucking explosion of drama that happens. He has nothing to do with it. He's just there for it. So when dinner is served, he gives a toast because no one else wants to give a toast.
Because everyone's pissed.
And he tells them, like, this is the best Thanksgiving you're ever going to have because you guys are all together. It's like, I have some friends I haven't talked to in decades. I have some friends that are dead. And I remember watching that scene and thinking, he is totally not acting right now. He is talking about his life right now. Like, and that is so sad. And when I go through this stuff, I'm like, damn, dude, like, a lot of the people from my childhood that really shaped stuff with, like, just hilarious stuff had real world problems. And, you know, it's weird because it's like, I'm doing a Haunted Hollywood episode, and I sincerely, absolutely love movies. That's why I love doing them. And you can make connections, like, when stuff like this happens that's just super creepy. But, you know, it's like, is this a curse or is this coincidence? And what it really comes down to is, if it's not a curse, you know, it's really good proof that comedians and celebrities are just people that have sincere and severe, occasionally, problems like everyone else, you know? And so many people in this story are affected by alcohol and drugs in one way, shape, or form. There's only a couple that are exempt from it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad. And I think it's something to definitely keep in mind, because I don't know. I don't read tabloids. Like, when I'm, like, standing at the checkout line in the grocery store, I don't even look at the things that are there. And I don't watch TMZ because I don't want to know, because it's none of my fucking business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I really don't get
That's
all
how I
that
always
stuff.
feel. I'm like, I don't realize what's so intriguing about invading someone's privacy. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're giving a piece of themselves to you in the things that you're going and consuming anyways.
I mean, I'll follow their personal Instagrams because they're
choosing what to share.
Right.
That's so different. That's why social media is fantastic, because they can choose what to share. So that's just, like, my connection to this. And I wound up, when I was going through this, realizing, like, damn, like, this shit is affecting me, because I know so many of these dudes. And, like, I asked my mom earlier today, like, do you remember when John Belushi died? And she's like, yeah, I do. Like, she totally remembers it. So it's for anyone who's been influenced or, like, had, you know, got to grow up watching stuff that these folks did, this one particular curse, like, knocked me on my ass, I won't lie. And I think movies are great because, like, you can make these connections to other people or strangers based off of some of the stuff that you both like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like superficial or bullshit connections. It's like, it really lets you connect, and you realize, like, someone appreciates something that you also appreciate, and you can form, like, a deeper connection because of that. And that's why I really love movies so much. So even though this was really sad, honestly, it's kind of awesome, because it's my excuse to talk about all these amazing creators, like, and actors and comedians, and they have this just wonderful library of stuff that, if you've never seen the stuff that these people have done, like, you should go see it. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It'll bring happiness into your life. And, like, stuff that Chris Farley did, stuff that John Candy did, stuff that John Belushi did, you know, all of them. They all have these amazing bodies of work that I absolutely encourage everyone to go check out, because as sad as this is, and morbid as this curse is, it's at least a nice way that we got to talk about them again. It's 2019. It's about to be 2020. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm still talking about John Belushi, and it sucks because I'm talking about him for all the wrong reasons, but at the same time, I can't wait to go watch Blues Brothers again. I've probably seen that movie 1,000 times, and I'm still going to go watch it again. So I said I was going to give you 3 movie curses, And I don't know if I adequately prepared you for the last one because it did get super heavy. But I don't want it to end on a depressing note. I want it to end on, these guys were amazing. Go check out the shit they did. It'll bring happiness into your life. So that, dear listeners, is Haunted Hollywood.
IV.
But yeah, that's everything I have for this episode. So I think that brings us to what is known as the end of the episode, if I'm not mistaken.
The conclusion of episode 103. Tune in next week for 100 and...
the 2-year anniversary of Scary-ish. I'm very excited for that episode. I have an idea for a topic that I want to cover. It'll be a lot of research. So episode 104 with a heavy research topic and a lot of Q&A will probably be a very long episode. Just fair warning, I don't think anyone's really upset about that. I just want to put that out there, but we'll see what happens. So I think that's just about everything we have, so we'll do the normal outro stuff. If you folks have anything that you want to send to us, you can email storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to any of our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast, and reach out to us that way. Or you can go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form, send it our way. We'd love to hear from you. If you're a member of the Scarish Spooky Friends group over there on Facebook, definitely bring up some of your favorite memories from some of the actors I talked about, because being someone that loves talking about television and movies, I would absolutely love to hear. I don't know if anyone realizes this, anyone who's a nerd out there who's ever played World of Warcraft, but if you're a druid in World of Warcraft and you turn into a boomkin, like the things that can do Starfire, and you do Slash Dance, it's the dance that Chris Farley does from the Chippendales dance.
Wow.
It's immortalized forever in World of Warcraft. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, I have all these stupid little tidbits that I don't know if people share, but if you have stuff like that, definitely share them, because I think this is a really good week to do that. But yeah, those are the ways you can reach out to us. If folks would like to donate, Robin, how can they do so?
You folks can go on over to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are all monthly donations. There's a whole bunch of different tiers you can check out. And if you want to do one-time donations, you can go to ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. Those are one-time donations that help us upgrade our studio setup. And thanks to all the donations that we've received in the past, we have been able to upgrade our computer finally, and it's absolutely great.
It really is. Very, very excited.
And we really can't do any of this without you guys, so.
Your support means the world to us, and thank you so much to everyone who has supported us in the past, or presently, or in the future. You mean the world to us. You sincerely do. So, but I think that's about everything we have. So go ahead and sign us out.
Happy Thanksgiving to our American friends. Happy super duper late Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends. And keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.